Hi, I am Vivian, and I want to tell you a story of how my mother-in-law got her karma. I'm using fake names for the sake of my daughter, who is a social media influencer, you could say. You see, my mother-in-law was quite something in my life for nearly 20 years, but let me take you back to my younger days first. I was once married before, and I had a beautiful daughter named Augustine. My world was complete with my husband and daughter, but when Augustine was just 5, tragedy struck. My husband, the love of my life, passed away, leaving me devastated and lost. It was a challenging time, but my parents were there to support me and help me stay strong for Augustine, who had her whole life ahead of her. Being a single mother was undoubtedly one of the most challenging periods of my life. After my first husband passed away, I found myself thrust into a world of responsibility, and emotionally the burden was immense. 3 years later, I had the chance to start a new chapter in my life. I met Samuel at a group therapy meeting. He was a divorced man. His ex-wife had cheated on him. We got talking, and it seemed like we really understood each other. We began dating, and Samuel quickly proved to be a loving and caring partner. He treated Augustine as his own daughter. I remember how he used to take Augustine to the park to feed the ducks almost every day because she loved it. One year, he decided to throw her a surprise birthday party which cost him a lot. He spent weeks secretly planning it, making homemade decorations and even baking a cake with Augustine's favourite flavours. Over time, Samuel and I grew even closer, and he decided to propose. It was a beautiful moment, and I couldn't have been happier. We finally got married, and it felt like a new chapter in our lives. I couldn't have asked for a better partner. Dealing with a toxic mother-in-law is like navigating a minefield. I had no prior experience, as my ex-mother-in-law was the epitome of kindness and support. She checked up on Augustine and me regularly, and even after my first husband's death, I genuinely appreciated her care. But then came Blake, Samuel's mother, Blake, and the game changed. It was as if I'd entered a whole new dimension of challenging relationships. While my ex-mother-in-law had loved us unconditionally, Blake's love seemed conditional, and I had no idea how to cope with her toxicity. She never liked me from day one, but I didn't let her opinions get in the way of my relationship. But after I got married, she took her toxicity to a whole new level. She was mean to me, but she was way more awful towards Augustine, who was just a child. Once, we were at a family gathering, and Augustine was eager to share her school achievements, having worked hard to earn an award. Augustine could not contain her excitement and eagerly revealed her news. Instead of the expected warmth and encouragement, Blake's response was biting. "Aren't you the little show-off? Nobody likes a know-it-all." When Augustine made it to the cheerleading team in high school and told us about it, Blake said, "You're not exactly very slim or attractive. They let in everyone nowadays, don't they?" One of the most hurtful things about Blake's attitude was her complete refusal to acknowledge Augustine as her actual granddaughter. This was evident at family gatherings and celebrations, where Blake hesitated to refer to Augustine as her real granddaughter, completely sidelining her. She used to talk about other children in our family, my brother-in-law's kids, Leslie and Frank to be specific, who were about Augustine's age. I vividly remember several instances from when Leslie, Frank and Augustine were kids that made it painfully evident how unfairly Blake treated our daughter. Once, the kids were playing in our backyard and Augustine fell and scraped her knee rather badly. When Blake noticed Augustine's injury, her reaction was far from what we expected. She scolded Augustine, telling her not to be so clumsy, and showed no empathy or comfort. Leslie and Frank, on the other hand, received a comforting hug. Another time, the kids were rehearsing for their school's talent show. Augustine had a beautiful singing voice. Blake attended their rehearsals and, when it came time for Augustine to sing, Blake barely paid any attention and made fun of Augustine. But then she was glued to Leslie and Frank's piano performance, applauding them. One time, Blake was on her worst behaviour when it was Augustine's 12th birthday. "Sorry, Augustine, I didn't get you a gift." "It's okay, Grandma, you can get me one next time." "Actually, no, please don't call me Grandma. I think you're a big girl now, aren't you, Augustine?" "Yes, I am. I'm 12 years old now." "Well, let me tell you a little secret now that you are 12. You're not my real granddaughter." "But why? Samuel is my dad now. Why can't you be my grandmother?" "You see, your cousins Leslie and Frank are my real grandchildren. You and your mum are not even part of this family." "Mum? What are you telling her? She's only 12. Is it okay to fill a 12-year-old girl's head with such things? She's my daughter." "That's so toxic, Blake." "Augustine, honey, don't listen to her. We are a part of this family and everyone loves you. Grandma just told you a bad joke." Despite the difficulties we faced with Blake, the real star in our lives was Samuel. He demonstrated his love for Augustine in countless ways after we got married. He was the person who made all of these problems worth it. Samuel never missed an important school event for Augustine, whether it was a school play where she had a lead role or a parent-teacher meeting. He was always there, seated proudly in the front row. He helped Augustine with her schoolwork and projects. He was a very present father figure. Samuel was more than a stepfather. He became a close friend, a confidant, and a caring figure in my daughter Augustine's life. The way he connected with her was truly remarkable. He would sit down with Augustine, engaged in conversations about her interests, and genuinely got to know her. Samuel didn't just listen. He participated. One day, a heartbreaking incident occurred that ended up tearing our family apart, and the blame for it lies squarely on Blake. Augustine had been struggling with recurring stomach issues due to the swelling of her intestines, which had been plaguing her for about a year, and she was just 13 years old at the time. These problems caused her severe stomach pains and sometimes even turned her skin a bluish hue. She would be in so much pain that she couldn't walk, and we had to rush her to the hospital. But then with the right medication, she got well. On that particular day, Samuel and I had to attend a wedding for one of Samuel's colleagues. It was a day wedding, scheduled on a Saturday. Given it was just a day-long event and not too far from our home, Augustine insisted that she could stay at home alone and that she didn't need a babysitter. She wanted to prove her independence and maturity. We left early in the morning for the wedding, trusting her to be responsible and capable of taking care of herself. Our home was far from the wedding venue, a 2-hour drive. As soon as we got there, I received a call from Augustine. "Hey baby, is everything all right?" "Mum, my stomach is aching really bad and I just can't get up." "Augustine, your stomach pain was gone. How did it come back?" "Mum, I don't know, but it hurts very much. What should I do?" "We just got here. It will take us 2 hours to drive back. I'll get your dad and we will be on your way in a couple of minutes. How about I call Grandma for you? She can come over and take you to the hospital." "Sure, please tell her to come soon. It hurts really bad." I informed Samuel and we got into the car. I called Blake. "Hey, Blake." "Oh, Vivian, why are you calling me? Weren't you supposed to be at a wedding?" "Yes, we are at the wedding, but there is an emergency. Augustine is home all alone and her stomach pain has gotten back. It really hurts and she needs to go to the doctor to get a vaccine shot to reduce her pain."
"How does this involve me?"
"We're on our way back from the wedding. We've just hit the road. Could you please go over and take Augustine to the doctor?"
Let me think. Looks like I'm quite busy reading this book at the moment. Blake, this isn't the time for your games. Augustine is your granddaughter."
"Games? Let's get one thing straight, Vivian.
Augustine isn't my biological granddaughter. She's not my son's child. She comes from another man, so I don't see a point in taking her to the hospital. She is not my family. Are you being serious? What kind of person are you? She's in pain. Could you please go for her sake, not as her grandmother, but as a human being? She needs you. I've said what I meant. She's not my true granddaughter, and I can't help her. She'll have to manage this on her own. You and your daughter can handle your own issues. Goodbye. Blake hung up on me.
So, is Mum going?
No. She said no. How can she do this to a child?
I can't believe her. We'll deal with her later, but what now?
Let me give a call to Emily and see if she can take Augustine to the hospital. I called my friend Emily, and thankfully she agreed and reassured me, and she was on her way to our house. I called Augustine to check up on her and let her know Emily was going to take her to the hospital. I called my daughter up, but no answer. I called her multiple times, but still no answer. I was scared to death. I think we should call 911. Emily is going to take a while to get there. The ambulance got to our place in a hurry, and the paramedics rushed inside. They found her in agony, and without wasting a moment, they got her to the hospital. Augustine was lying in a tiny hospital bed, out cold. The doctors administered pain relief, but the agony had knocked her out. Samuel and I kept a vigil by her side, hoping for her to wake up. It was a relief that she was stable, but the pain had left her unconscious for the time being.
Enough is enough. What happened today? I can't let it slide. My mother crossed a line, Vivian. I think it's time to cut all ties with her.
You're right. Augustine's well-being is the top priority. I won't stand in your way if you decide to keep a connection with your mother, but for me and Augustine it might be best if we keep our distance.
No, she's been acting immaturely, creating drama out of nowhere. Regardless of whether Augustine shares her blood, I love her and treat her as my own daughter. My mother should do the same. We're going no contact with her. I'm with you on this. Let's move forward without her.
It has been a little over 10 years since that incident now. We totally cut off Blake from our lives. When she realised we didn't want her in our lives anymore, she came over and lashed out at me and Samuel. Samuel! Do you really think I have not noticed how you are distancing yourself from me? Do you honestly believe this is all my fault? I accepted your choice to marry a widow, but she brought her child, a child from another man. I'm sorry, but I can't accept her as my grandchild. I didn't take her to the hospital because she's not a part of my family, and I don't want to help her. When your father passed away, I didn't move on to another man and relied on him to raise you and your brother, right?
Mum, why are you being so immature about this? Vivian is the love of my life. It's not her fault her ex-husband passed away, leaving her and Augustine. Don't you think they deserve a second chance at life?
They might have, but not with you. Raising another man's child as your own. I didn't want this for you.
This is what I want for myself. I'd appreciate it if you left now.
Blake, we didn't want to cause you any trouble, but what you did is unforgivable. How can we ever count on you?
Mum, you're not welcome in our home anymore. You've become toxic. It's painful to see you acting this way.
You're choosing her over your own blood? I thought you had more loyalty. Son, you're going to regret this. I'm warning you.
I'm just protecting my family.
We'd appreciate it if you left. Augustine will be back from school soon. We can't have this negativity around our daughter. And that was the last time we had heard from Blake. During those 10 years, as Augustine grew from a teenager into a young adult, we celebrated a lot of milestones and cherished countless memories. So from Augustine's prom to her graduation, we were right there with her every step of the way. She was a smart young lady, and she started getting into the whole social media and influencing thing. And then she decided to move to Los Angeles, chasing her dreams. Let me tell you, she made some real bucks out there. Throughout all these years, Augustine had questions about her childhood. She was aware of everything, including how toxic Blake was to her. It was not easy, but we had found peace in our lives. Augustine was doing her thing in Los Angeles, and Sammy and I were back at home, feeling fulfilled and satisfied in our own way. We had our circle of friends and our little hobbies, and honestly, life was good.
We even thought about having a baby of our own. But you know what? We realized something. We realized that we were meant to be parents to Augustine and Augustine only, and we were happy the way things were. Until a couple of months back, when Augustine received a call from Blake. Augustine called me from Los Angeles right after talking to Blake. "Hey, Mum. What's up?" "Hey, sweetie, we're good here." "You sound tired. What's going on?" Not much, Mum. I hit an influencer party last night, got a bit too crazy, and now I'm dealing with a nasty hangover." "Augustine, how many times have I told you to take it easy with the drinks? Anyway, try a lime water shot. It should help." "Thanks, Mum, but that's not why I called you." "Well, what's up then?" "You won't believe it. Blake called me." "Blake? How did she even get your number? What did she want?" "She got it from Leslie, probably. She said she wanted to catch up with me and that she regretted treating me the way she did. She mentioned she's not in the same headspace anymore." "That's surprising. What else did she say?" "More surprisingly, she wants to reconnect with me. She asked me to visit her place next time I'm in town." "When are you planning to be in town exactly?" "I can work from home, you know, and it's been a while since I saw you and Dad. I think I'll come over this Sunday and pay her a visit." "Well, it's your decision, but remember the ambulance incidents. She wasn't acting responsibly at all, and you could have been in big trouble if help hadn't arrived in time. She sounded genuinely sorry and really eager to see me. So why not give it a shot? I'll book a flight and come back home this Sunday. What do you think?" "Samuel is going to be over the moon. He misses you a lot, and when I tell him this, he'll be thrilled." "Well, I miss you both as well. See you on Sunday." "We love you, Augustine." The following Sunday, Augustine returned home, and her arrival filled our home with excitement. We had missed her dearly, and it was great to have her back. The very next day, she suggested that we all pay a visit to Blake's house. Augustine didn't feel comfortable going alone after all that had happened. I must admit, I was a bit anxious about it. We hadn't seen Blake in ages, and Samuel was feeling stressed too, but we decided to go ahead with the visit anyway. "Oh my God, you guys! It has been so long! Samuel, I missed you!" "Yes, Mum, I've thought about you too." "Well, Vivian, and of course my dear Augustine, first of all, I want to apologise to you. Vivian, and you, Augustine, what I did all those years back was totally unacceptable. I've learnt my lesson the hard way. Look at me, an old hag living in this house alone. No one wants to see me. I'm so sorry, Vivian, for putting you through all of that. As a mother, I can understand how stressful it might have been for you. If something happened to Samuel, I wouldn't have been able to live with myself, and I'd put Augustine in danger." "Well, it's okay now, Blake."
"Mum, I'm glad you're finally taking responsibility for your actions."
"Well, Blake, I want to say—"
"Augustine, no, call me Grandma. My words were really harsh, but you are in fact my grandkid. It doesn't matter where you come from."
"Oh, wow."
"Leslie once told me how famous you've become and how you're attending all these lavish events. You're even meeting all these celebrities. You must be making big money, right?"
"Well, I'm grateful for the life I have right now, and I make a decent amount."
"Well, I hate to ask, but I need a favour, Augustine."
"Of course, Grandma. What's going on?"
"Oh, hey, I hate to ask, but I need some money. $50,000 to be exact. I took out a loan for renovations on the house, and I plan to cover it from my savings. But things went south. I got scammed online and lost everything in my bank account. Now I need to pay off the loan and manage my daily expenses until I figure things out."
"Mum, you really got yourself into a mess. How did this even happen?"
"It doesn't matter anymore. Reaching out to you for money wasn't my first choice. I know 50,000 is a lot, and I never expected you and Vivian to help me with it. But when I heard about Augustine, I thought he might help. I even asked Leslie and Frank, but they straight up refused. I've been a good grandma to them, and this is how they repay me. I'm not expecting anything from you, but I don't know what will happen. They might take the house if I can't repay the loan. Well, I'll have to think about it. So we were back home, and it was crystal clear that Blake's sudden nice act was just a front. She was in deep financial trouble. Augustine had these plans to spruce up her apartment, but she held off. She said you can't exactly jazz up her place with her grandma's drowning, you know? Even though Blake could be a handful, she was still Samuel's mum. Now Samuel was torn. He really wanted to help his mum, but let's be real, we weren't swimming in cash. Augustine, being the softie she is, decided she would drop off a cheque before going back to LA. It was a big gesture, especially after what Blake had put my daughter through. I was kind of proud of her for putting the past behind her and for being so selfless and helpful. A couple of days rolled by and Augustine got this call from her agency. Augustine had been trying to get into acting and there was an audition her manager needed her for. Talk about short notice. She booked the earliest flight, which was just 3 hours away. Now Augustine, always on the go, was scrambling to pack her bags and get ready. Before heading out, she handed me this cheque, a hefty $50,000, and said, "Mom, please give this to Blake. I know she's got her issues, but she's family." I drove her to the airport as Samuel was at work, and she rushed to catch that flight. Our goodbyes were kind of quick. Hugs, a few words about taking care, and then she was off. On the way back, I decided to make a stop at Blake's and give her the cheque Augustine had left for her. I drove to her house, and wouldn't you know, the doorbell was acting up again. After a few minutes of waiting, I gave the door a couple of knocks. No answer. That's when I heard voices in the backyard. Curiosity got the best of me, so I sneaked around. As I hid behind a corner, I couldn't help but eavesdrop on Blake's conversation. "You need to trust me on this. The Leslie and Frank situation was disappointing, I know. Those two are utterly useless. This wasn't just about a little white lie for some cash. It was a test and they failed big time. It showed me their true colours. Augustine, though, perfect pawn. That girl is just like her mother, too forgiving and trusting. Once that money's in my hands, this place is getting sold. Combine it with Augustine's little contribution and voila! We're upgrading to a fancy villa just for us. It's all coming together." I couldn't believe the words coming out of Blake's mouth, and I decided to jump in. "Seriously? You spun this whole drama just for money? Who are you even talking to?" "Well, there's this guy, Griffin." "Griffin? Who's Griffin?" "Someone I met." "And you lied to us about losing your house? About being scammed? Just so you could buy a villa with some guy you are seeing? I can't believe we fell for this. Augustine gave you a second chance and you took advantage of her good heart. You don't get it. I need an upgrade too. You guys are out there having fun and no one cares about me. Leslie and Frank, my real grandkids, turned me down when I asked for help. Even after lying that I had no money, they refused. I had to do this for myself. It's easy for you to judge from your position. I had limited options, and this seemed like the best way to secure a stable future. Well, guess what? I came here to drop off this $50,000 check that Augustine wrote for you, but you don't deserve it. I took the check out of my purse and tore it into two. Blake started crying. How could you tear my dreams apart just like that? That check was meant for me, not you. I had Augustine right where I wanted her to be, and the plan was in motion. You ruined this for me. I told the details of this whole web of lies to Samuel and Augustine. Augustine said I did the right thing by tearing the check into two in front of Blake. We were shocked at the depth of her selfishness. We still can't believe we bought her whole lie, but thankfully she was not able to get what she wanted. And with that, we closed the chapter on Blake. No more drama. No more playing into her schemes. Some folks just don't evolve. They get more self-centered with time. Blake had a chance to change, but she just took the low road.